So tell me, what would you do if you were a PM for a product where revenue was decreasing 75% year over year, engineering capacity is limited, and leadership wants a new roadmap that will save the business by the end of the month? While this may be an exaggerated example, these are the types of situational questions product managers are asked in their behavioral interview. That's why in this video, I skip all the generic advice and break down what situational questions are, explain how to answer them using the simplest yet most effective framework, and end off by sharing answers successful candidates interviewing at companies like Uber, NVIDIA, and Anthropic use to ace this part of their behavioral interview. Let's get into it. Let's start by clarifying what situational questions are. In the behavioral round, interviewers typically ask two types of questions, behavioral questions and situational questions. This video will cover situational questions, but in this video, I break down how to answer behavioral questions. Situational questions ask how you would think, prioritize, make decisions, and trade-offs when faced with hypothetical challenges that are similar to those that you might face if you were to get the job. Some examples include, how do you prioritize tasks? How would you respond if your team disagreed with your ideas? How would you manage difficult conversations? The goal here is to see whether your judgment and product instincts align with how the company and their PMs would approach these decisions. Because of that, you first need to identify the traits the company values in strong candidates before crafting a response to these questions. As mentioned in the last video, strong PMs generally exhibit the following traits. In addition, you want to identify the traits that define a strong PM at the specific company that you are interviewing for. Using the same example from my previous video, if I were applying for a product manager role at Duolingo, I would review the careers page or job listings and note the qualities they look for in PMs. In Duolingo's case, those traits are listed here. Remember, your answer does not need to demonstrate just one trait. For example, if you are asked, how do you prioritize tasks? You might explain how you weigh user impact against engineering effort, talk to customers to understand urgency, and use data to validate which problems matter most. That answer demonstrates outcome-first thinking, user empathy, and analytical thinking all within the same solution. The goal of listing these traits is to use them as guiding principles when crafting your response. With that being said, let's jump into the framework we can use to craft a response to situational questions, which I like to call SODs. This stands for Scope, Options, Decisions, and Success. First, let's briefly explain each step of the framework and then apply it to a very popular situational question. First, let's start with scope. We want to get clarification on what the goal is, what constraints you are operating under, and how success will be measured. This helps you avoid solving for the wrong problem or over-engineering a solution that does not matter. Once the scope is clear, we can move on to options. You want to walk through 2 or 3 realistic ways you could approach the problem. For each one, call out the main trade-off you are making, such as whether it is speed versus quality, short-term impact versus long-term scalability, or focus versus coverage. From there, you want to make a decision. Choose one path and explain why it is the right choice for the situation. Be explicit about what you are not doing and why. Interviewers want to see that you can prioritize even when there is no perfect answer. And finally, talk about how you would measure success. Talk about the metrics or signals you would watch and what outcomes would cause you to double down, adjust, or change your plan. This shows that you think in terms of learning and iteration, not just execution. Next, let's walk through a response applying this framework to a common situational question asked at companies like Uber, NVIDIA, and Anthropic. How do you prioritize tasks? As we walk through the answer, notice how we intentionally surface the product management traits that Duolingo is looking for. First, I want to clarify the outcome that matters most right now and how success will be measured. I ask about constraints like capacity, timing, and uncertainty to ensure we're solving the right problem and not over-engineering a solution. For this example, let's assume our primary goal is to improve user engagement this quarter and engineering capacity is limited. With that scope, I lay out 3 concrete options and make the trade-offs explicit. The first option is to focus all efforts on 1 or 2 high-impact engagement drivers, such as improving repeat usage of a core feature or reducing friction in a core workflow. The trade-off here is focus versus coverage. We maximize impact on engagement, but we intentionally delay smaller improvements elsewhere. The second option is to invest time in experiments to better understand why users disengage, such as testing changes to reminders, incentives, or onboarding nudges. The trade-off here is speed versus confidence. We delay immediate gains in exchange for higher confidence in what actually drives engagement. The third option here is to ship several low-hanging fruits that will improve user engagement. The trade-off here is momentum versus impact. We ship more quickly, but no single change is likely to move engagement in a meaningful way. Given limited capacity and a near-term engagement goal, I would choose the first option paired with lightweight experiment where needed. I want to concentrate effort on the changes most likely to move engagement and get a clear signal quickly. That means deprioritizing smaller wins and accepting the risk that we might miss incremental improvements in the short term. Let's say we decide to focus on improving repeat usage of a core feature. Before we ship anything, I want to state a clear hypothesis about what success metrics and behavior should change if this is the right focus. If those metrics move in the expected direction, we can double down and continue investing. If they don't, we pause, analyze, and reprioritize rather than continuing to invest by default. For example, if we believe users are disengaging with the platform because the core feature isn't delivering value early enough, success isn't just seeing improvement in metrics like daily active users or total sessions. I would look for signals like users returning sooner to the platform or reaching value faster within the workflow. If those behaviors change, I know we are on the right path. If they don't change, I reprioritize instead of sticking to the plan just because we shipped it. You'll notice that this answer highlights traits that Duolingo is looking for in top product managers, including outcome-first thinking, experimentation mindset, velocity with self-awareness, and clear decision-making under constraints. Another quick thing here is that throughout your answer, your interviewer may ask you follow-up questions. For the solution I just gave, interviewers may ask, you mentioned that if the engagement signals don't improve, you would reprioritize. Based on your answer, how would you decide what to adjust or focus on next? Let's say you present this proposal to leadership and they tell you short-term revenue is now also a top priority this quarter alongside engagement. How would that information change your answer? Great, so now I want to end off with some quick tips. First, be structured, not exhaustive. Start by clearly framing the problem and constraints, then walk through your reasoning step by step. Interviewers are not looking for every possible option, they're looking for how you think. Next, make sure your trade-offs are explicit. Situational questions are about judgment. Call out the choices you are considering, what you are optimizing for, and what you are intentionally deprioritizing, so your decision logic is easy to follow. Next, show your thinking, not buzzwords. Avoid saying things like, I would be customer obsessed or I would be data driven. Instead, explain how you would talk to users, analyze signals, or run experiments to inform your decision. And lastly, practice, practice, practice. The goal is to sound conversational and confident while keeping the interviewer engaged throughout your entire answer. Run mock interviews, record yourself, and review your delivery to catch filler words, tighten your execution, and build confidence with each attempt. And that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful in showing you how to answer situational questions for the product manager interview. If you want to learn how to answer the other half of behavioral interviews, feel free to check out this video, answering behavioral questions. Let me know if you have any suggestions for videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.